on the world news tonight. First, the headlines. ECOWAS, FG beg international community to support to restore democracy in Niger. Senate to screen, confirm last batch of ministerial nominees today. Doctor's death, lift installer handed over to the police, says Lagos government. NSCDC seeks expert support to safeguard schools. And sport, 2 countries qualify for quarter-final. I am Morire Rabila Lawal. The news in detail. The federal government and the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, have called for support from the international community to restore democratic rule in Niger Republic. Ibrahim Lamoua, permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sought support while briefing the diplomatic corps on the political situation in the Republic of Benin on Friday in Abuja. Mr. Lamoua said the federal government and ECOWAS commended the international community for condemning General Abdurrahmani Tiani-led coup that ousted Niger's democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, from office on July 26. This is also as they expressed concerns over the safety of Mr. Bazoum, who is reportedly held by the military junta in detention. The authority welcomes the immediate condemnation by the international community of the coup in Niger and sees this as a huge testimony to the preference for democracy and constitutional rule vis-a-vis any other form of governance. Consequently, Nigeria and indeed ECOWAS call upon the international community to remain resolute on its stance and to continue to show solidarity to ECOWAS in confirming and affirming the superiority of democratic and constitutional rule over dictatorship. Mr. Lamoua stressed that the coup in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso raised concerns about regional stability and ECOWAS' reputation. Mr. Lamoua said military intervention would be the last option the bloc would deploy in restoring democratic rule in Niger Republic, and if diplomatic engagement with the Niger junta failed. He also reiterated President Bola Tinubu's commitment as the chairman of the ECOWAS, authority of head of state and government, to ensuring the use of diplomacy to restore democracy in Niger and the release of Mr. Bazoum and his cabinet members held by the military junta. The Senate is screening the last batch of the ministerial nominees today. It is also expected to confirm the entire 48 nominees today. The upper legislative chamber, which was due to proceed on its long holiday by the end of July 2023, suspended the holiday to ensure that the screening and confirmation of ministerial nominees is done before proceeding on the annual recess. According to the other paper containing the list of the last batch of nominees, which was released on Saturday, it has the following persons awaiting to be screened and confirmed: Lola Adejon, Lagos, Boson Tijani, Ogun; Dr. Isiak Salako, Ogun; Dr. Tahir Mamman, Adamawa; Uba Megeri Ahmadu, Taraba; Dr. Maria Mahmoud Kano, Festus Kiyamo San, Delta. The installer of a faulty elevator that claimed the life of a medical doctor, Ware Diaso, at the General Hospital Odon, Lagos Island, last Tuesday, has been handed over to the police for interrogation, the Lagos State government has said. In a statement on Friday, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Information and Strategy in the state, Olumide Shogole, said an inquiry has commenced into the incident. The investigation panel will submit a report of its initial findings on Saturday, Shogole said. As part of the panel's activities from the first day when they interviewed the lift installer, they handed him over to the police for questioning and further interrogation. This is to ensure that the installer will always be available if the panel needs him for further questions. 6 house officers and representatives of medical associations were appointed as witness. Representatives of house officers and medical associations were allowed to be part of the panel. The panel was given 48 hours to conclude action, and so it will be submitting a report of their initial findings on Saturday, and any other steps to be taken after that would be done by the appropriate authorities.
Justice for Waire! 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 Justice for Waire!
I'm a medical doctor and I finished from HSC in 2022, and I'm here at the scene of where everything happened. And Waire was a medical doctor here, our colleagues are here, and they have been the people who watched this incident happen and who have come together to demand for justice for her. This is the elevator of which we have complained most of them actually, we have complained severally and repeatedly about the elevators, that they were not working, they were faulty. We complained to our facility manager, we complained to HSC, General Hospital, literally every medical body that we could go to, we complained to them and nothing was done. And yesterday our friend got to the elevator and he fell through 10 floors. Before they could get help, it was over an hour before they could get help. And even when they got to the accident and emergency, which is 3 steps away from here, it was so hard to get her the emergency services she needs. It is clear that the system failed her and we are demanding for justice. And we want everyone everywhere to see this and know that our friend died because of the negligence of the managing facility there, and we want justice for our friend Waire. So thank you very much.
For effective implementation and success of Safe Schools program in Nigeria, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, has called for experts to support from stakeholders. Commandant General of the Corps, Dr. Ahmed Audi, made the call at the inauguration of a 21-member Technical Advisory Committee of the National Safe Schools Response Coordination Center at the Corps National Headquarters, Abuja. Audi pointed out that the Safe School programs has become necessary considering the importance of education on human capital development and the overall national development, thus making it expedient for governments to deploy extraordinary measures to tackle the spate of attacks on school facilities in the country. In a statement signed by the Director of Public Relations of the Corps, Olushola Odumusu, the CG described the NSSRCC as a critical component of the National Plan for Safe Schools, saddled with coordinated, preventive, and safety and security responsibilities and responses for schools and host communities in collaboration with the military, other law enforcement agencies, as well as relevant stakeholders. The National Plan on Safe School was put in place to facilitate the prevention of attacks and effective protection of schools and host communities from violence and attacks, he said. On the essence of expertise, Dr. Audi tasked all, saying support to the center by those with expertise as carefully selected to serve on this committee will result in the success of the program and safety of schools' children, the Corps man said. He adds that shortly after the launch of the center on February 13, 2023, a committee of experts was constituted to develop a standard operating procedure, SOP, and implementation framework to guide the operations of the center in line with the goal best practices. Commander in charge of the center, Dr. Tasso Shapara, explained that the NSCDC is designated to lead agency with a mandate to host the National Safe Schools Response Coordination Center, and that the inauguration of TAC is of compelling necessity to gain and use expert knowledge, expertise, and experience of every agency represented in the committee to the advantage of the center. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has commenced the distribution of relief materials to 25,698 victims of the 2022 flood disaster and vulnerable persons in Taraba State. Director General of NEMA, Alhaji Mustafa Abi, made the declaration at the flagging off of the distribution of food and non-food items delivered to persons affected by the 2022 flood disaster and vulnerable persons in Jalingo on Friday. The DG said that the gesture was under the Special National Economic and Livelihood Emergency Intervention aimed at bringing succor to the victims and vulnerable persons in Nigeria. Abib, represented by Madam Seidu Inusa, leader of the delegation and supervisor for the distribution of the items, said that the relief materials were food and non-food commodities as the first component, which includes rice, beans, sorghum, Maggi, salt, and vegetable oil, blankets, mat, mosquito nets, and detergents. He listed the livelihood items, which in the second category to include sewing and grinding machines, and the third category, which was farm inputs, including water pump for dry season farmers, sprayers, liquid fertilizers, herbicides, and seedlings. Moving on to the next story. The Secretary to the Ogun State Government, Tokumbi Talabi, has been invited and interrogated by the Department of State Services over recent allegations of fraud leveled against him. A source from the DSS who craved anonymity said that the invitation and subsequent interrogation were as a result of allegations leveled against the Secretary General of the state. The source said that the grill took place at the Ogun State Command headquarters of the DSS, Okemoso, Abeokuta, on Friday at exactly 6:55 p.m. Talabi was reportedly grilled for 5 hours on Friday, but was released afterwards on self-recognition. Talibi's alleged involvement with Superflux Printing Limited, located at Acme Road, Ikeja, Lagos State, has in recent times come under close scrutiny. It was gathered that a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ozekeme, had submitted a petition to the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, Code of Conduct Bureau, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, demanding a thorough investigation into the link between the Independent National Electoral Commission and a printing company believed to be owned by Taliban during the last elections. But the source said the agency grilled the SSG on a petition logged by Taliban himself on the allegations. Troops of Operation Adarindaji have neutralized more bandits, rescued kidnapped victims, recovered items, and destroyed bandit hideouts in some states in the northern west, the Nigerian army said on Friday. A post on its verified Twitter handle explained that on 3rd August 2023, armed bandits attempted to infiltrate and attack Isa local government area of Sokoto State, adding that vigilant troops deployed in forward operating base. Isa responded swiftly and repelled the attack with superior firepower. It further explained that the swift attack forced the bandits to flee with gunshot wounds, as traces of blood stains were seen on their routes during the pursuit. Similarly, troops of Team 8 of Sector 3, Operation Adarindaji, deployed in Sabon Birni in Sokoto State, conducted clearance operations, discovered and destroyed bandit hideouts at Kusabulni Forest, Tefkin Gao Alundawa, Ongwer Meleli, and Malamawa villages in Sokoto State. However, bandits fled and abandoned their hideout before the arrival of the troops, it said. It added that the items recovered from the hideout of the bandits are 3 motorcycles, 3 AK-47 magazines, and ammunition, stressing that others include varieties of pairs of both military and foreign camouflage uniforms, police uniform, and a radio. The army further noted that troops of Sector 2 in Katsina State also launched an offensive operation along the withdrawal route of some kidnappers at Ore Town in Batagarawa LGA of Katsina State. It said that on sighting the troops, the bandits fled, abandoning the victims and the rustled animals. It noted that 4 persons who were captured from the farmland by armed bandits along Ongwer Madugu of Dendume local government area were rescued by troops of Operation Adarindaji in Katsina State. Five persons have reportedly been kidnapped by suspected X-Men in Igara, Akoko Edo local government area of Edo State. It was learned that 4 people were kidnapped on Wednesday, while 1 was picked on Tuesday. Confirming the incident, a top commander of the vigilance group said they have been combing the forest in the area, adding that they are just picking people everywhere, especially around Farm Road, behind the Technical College Hostel, and behind the Glory Land School in Igara. They kidnapped 4 people yesterday and 1 today, and they contacted one of the families of the victims and they asked for 12 million naira. They have collected only once, and since then, they have not called again since then. After a week, they kidnapped 4 people near Ayegule, where they killed 1 person, and before then, they also kidnapped 1 person in the same farm road and collected 1 million naira. Before he was released, and from the testimonies of the victim, they said they are Fulani boys. To the foreign story, embattled President Mohamed Bazoum has raised the alarm that Mali and Burkina Faso military juntas are using criminal Russian mercenaries like the Wagner Group to subvert democracy. Mr. Bazoum stated this Thursday in an open letter to the U.S. government. The Nigerian president had been detained since his government was overthrown in a military coup led by Abdurrahman Tiani, a former head of the president's security, on July 26. Notably, Nigeria's security situation is significantly better than that of our neighbors Mali and Burkina Faso, whose governments, both installed by military takeovers, support the illegal coup, Mr. Bazoum wrote in the letter. Rather than addressing security concerns by strengthening their capacity, they employ criminal Russian mercenaries, such as the Wagner Group, at the expense of the people's rights and dignity. The letter came a week after the coup leader and military officers flew to Mali to meet with the country's ruler. Salifou Modi, a military general and one of the orchestrators in the plots that led to the ousting of Mr. Bazoum, was part of the delegation of military officials who visited Mali. The visit had raised eyebrows that a former Western ally could draw closer to Mali's military leaders with ties to the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is said to have about 1,500 troops in Mali. Mali and Burkina Faso threatened war if ECOWAS attempted to remove Nigerian coupists through military action in the bid to reinstate Mr. Bazoum. And finally, on sports. At least 2 countries have qualified for the quarterfinal of the ongoing 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup taking place in Australia and New Zealand. The 2 countries are Spain and Japan. This comes following the conclusion of Saturday's round of 16 fixtures. Information report that Spain defeated Switzerland 5-1 in the round of 16 fixture to advance to the last 8. Japan, meanwhile, won 3-1 against Norway in the other round of 16 encounter. The round of 16 fixtures continue on Sunday. South Africa will take on the Netherlands, while Sweden will clash with the United States as Super Falcons of Nigeria plays England. That comes to the end of today's world news from BGI TV Current. Before we go, some headlines. ECOWAS, FG, beg international community to support to restore democracy in Niger. Senate to screen, confirmed last batch of ministerial nominees today. Doctor's death, lift installer handed over to police, says Lagos government. NSCDC seeks support to safeguard schools. We also brought to you NEMA distribute relief materials to over 25,000 vulnerable persons in Taraba. On sport, 2 countries qualified for quarterfinal of the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. For more updates of our broadcast on YouTube, our handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access all of our broadcasts. On Facebook, Bagide Imo with Alawiye Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. For advert placement of your goods and services, coverage of events and functions, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen. Thank you for watching. I am Morire.